This episode of Scrolling to Death is sponsored by Bark Technologies. Bark offers parents advanced content monitoring for all of your child's devices. Bark is literally helping to save lives and has alerted parents to millions of life-threatening situations like self-harm and severe bullying. More on Bark in the episode notes. Harrison, welcome to Scrolling to Death. I'm so excited to have you on again today. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm good, despite all the crazy stuff in the world happening right now, but we're going to have a really interesting, productive conversation. Well, let's talk about, so you're still in school at James Madison, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool. How's that going?
It's going great. This is the last week of exams.
Okay.
Been writing essays and doing field work. So everything's kind of coming to a culmination here, but we're just about done. Yeah, it's going well.
Okay, amazing. And then what else are you working on? So are you still part of Wired Human?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about that group again.
Yeah, so Wired Human is a youth coalition. We seek to empower youth voices in politics and create change on especially technology and things that affect them.
Amazing. I love that. And
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it reminds me of Young People's Alliance with Ava Smithing and that other group. Yeah, love Ava.
I was just with her. With her and Mitch on Sunday. They came down for another recording. It was awesome.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
I will link to my interview. I have 2 interviews with Ava. She's so interesting. And I love hearing that youth are actually getting involved in these spaces. Obviously, I'm a parent and I'm coming at it, when we talk about youth safety, I'm coming at it from the perspective of trying to protect my kids. But you guys actually have that lived experience of being through all of the things that we're scared of our kids being faced with. So we need you. So thank you for doing that work.
Yeah.
We had a conversation beforehand where you shared your experience with grooming online as a young teenager. And I'm going to link to that conversation in the episode notes if listeners want to go back and hear you telling that story so bravely. And we talked about some tips on how to protect your children from grooming. I've done additional interviews, a couple actually, about grooming, but one with an expert, kind of someone who's spent time with the actual groomers and learned about their behavior. And she has a book called Duck, Duck, Groom, Anna Sonoda. So anyway, I'll link to that as well. But one thing that struck me from the conversation was that after your experience and your lived experience, you have kind of taken on a different approach to adulthood around technology. You downgraded to a dumb phone for a time. I want to talk through some of those benefits that you experienced. And it's been interesting. Sorry, I'm talking so long. I'm going to get to a question.
It's okay.
It's been interesting because since then, I've had several other conversations where I'm really honing in on the fact that there's so many positive changes that adults and parents can make. And I was talking with Claire Morrell. She works in DC at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. She uses a basic phone, like a Wise phone now. I think I have an interview with her coming up, but I think solely. And it helps her not to be distracted, and especially when she's around her kids. And then I was talking with Ben Tracy, who is running marathons across the country to spread awareness of kids' online safety.
Wow.
And yeah, it's really interesting. But he said in our interview that the parents are the problem, related to the example that we're setting for our kids and how we engage with our devices. So anyway, I know you're not a parent yet. I want to focus today's discussion on what it would look like if parents and also any adults made changes in how we interact with devices, whether we're in front of kids or not. You said the term digital essentialism to me for the first time. So can you tell me what that means to you?
Yeah, I think digital essentialism and intentionalism is really important. Just creating your intentions before you even step into the world of your screens, because screens are meant to enhance our lives. I mean, think about all of the devices you use regularly, all of the automated machines, from your car that gets you to work, to your washing machine that washes your clothes, and your stove. I mean, these are incredible inventions. And I believe that the iPhone was meant for the same invention, to release us of the burdens of, filing through all of our contact lists and freeing up time for what we all think matters most. I don't think that this is the reality of today.
No.
So before we open up our phones and buy our children phones, or just engage with social media or texting or whatever, to set our intentions and say, this is what I want my time to be on.
Yeah. I talked about this with Tim Estes. He has an organization called Angel Kids, and he's creating like a safe AI web browser for children, which is really interesting. It hasn't launched yet, but he said,
That's
like,
so cool.
yeah, it's really cool to actually use AI for good, not all the bad things we keep hearing about AI and chatbots. But he talked about the fact that tech is supposed to make things easier and let us do things faster. And with social media, it's kind of like the technology because it makes everything take longer. It's a waste of time. It distracts you from any productive activities.
Right.
So, right, like we spend a lot of time on things that don't make our life easier and actually make us feel worse. And social media is probably the number one front runner on that list. It's hard though, because most people use iPhones, and iPhones, have all these distracting and addictive apps on them. So you did turn to a basic phone. Tell me about that. Which phone was it again?
Yeah, when I went to college, my first semester in college is like my second week that I got it. It was called the Light Phone 2. It was awesome.
You loved it. Okay.
Yeah.
I had the light phone. Maybe I had number 1.
Yeah.
It was hard to type on it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it sucks. The typing is terrible.
Okay. But is the 2 any better on the typing, or it's not meant to be used a lot, right? It's meant to be used lightly.
Yeah. That's the whole point, is a phone that's designed to be used as little as possible. I think that's their motto. And so they had a feature where you could like turn it sideways, and you could have it dictate and like talk to text.
Okay.
Which was super accurate and really helpful. But group texts weren't great, Obviously didn't have email or any of that stuff on there. So it's an obstacle for some people, but for that season of life, it was really wonderful.
Okay. So tell me more about why it was wonderful for you to use the light phone.
Yeah. I think for me, especially coming out of high school, I was really dissatisfied with the life that I knew. All the people around me that were some of my closest friends seemed to be sucked into their phones. We were all, about to go to college and spending our last few months together. And it just seemed like no one really wanted to hang out or spend time together.
Yeah.
And so I decided that, I'm going to embark on this new journey of college, and I want to be as intentional as I can. So I'm ditching this smartphone. I'm getting this light phone. I had to pre-order it. Took like 6 months to ever even arrive. And so it showed up that second week of college, and I just loved it. I felt like all of those moments between moments that I experienced with my smartphone, where the first thing I would do standing in line at a coffee shop or waiting for the bus was pull up my phone and scroll endlessly on something until, whatever was ready for me.
Yeah.
But those moments I gained back, they were portals to prayer. They were portals to introspection, to, as Ava Smithing says, stare at a wall. And you learn something about yourself, and you learn something about the people around you too. So it was really special.
How did others react to you when they saw it? They're like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I had this girl, actually, it's a great question. There was this girl in my first semester psychology class. She was sitting behind me. As a classic lecture hall, it rises, and I was at like the 3rd or 4th row in this giant 300-person lecture hall. And she's sitting behind me. I've never talked to this girl in my life. And she goes, "What the hell is that?" And I said, "This is my phone." She was like, "Why does it look like that?" And I was like, it has like a Kindle screen, really basic user interface. It's tiny. It like looks like a slightly bigger credit card. Like it's not a large phone.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is just my phone. Like, what's wrong? And she was like, that's just really weird. And I had all these things I wanted to say, but I said, I'm sorry that my peace is making you uncomfortable. And like, I wish I hadn't said it like that, but I did. And I felt like a lot of people responded that way. But we learned, and I'm doing research for this book that I'm writing, and I'm learning that on average, Americans are on their iPhones for 4.5 hours a day. We watch 2.5 hours of television a day. We're at work for 8.1 hours a day. That's leaving 8% of our day for the things that we all say matter most. Wow. So we ought to fight for that time back.
What do you wish you would have said to her in that class?
I wish I would have rolled my eyes. Maybe I turned around and rolled my eyes. I wish I would have like pulled her aside and asked her why she felt that way. Honestly, because I think so many of us, we don't know exactly what we want, but so many of us feel this shallow hum of anxiety every single day. And we're all just slightly dissatisfied with the life that we live. So I think I would have asked her some questions.
Yeah. Okay. So how long did you use the light phone for?
About 1.5 years.
Okay. And what caused the transition back to a smartphone?
I dropped it. I dropped it and it broke.
Oh, it
Yeah.
broke.
Yeah. And I felt like it was such a God moment too, because it broke right at the point where I started getting involved in advocacy, and I went right back to the iPhone. I was actually going to California for the Worldwide Developers Conference protest with the Heat Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at Apple's headquarters, and my parents were like, there's no way that you're leaving to go to California without a cell phone. And I was like, I don't need one. It'll be fine. And they were like, no, you need a phone. Like, we're going to get you a phone before you get back. And I was like, why?
That is
but yeah,
so funny and backward.
I'm back on the phone.
Yeah.
I don't love the iPhone, but
Mhm.
I will say the things that I learned coming back to the iPhone
Mhm.
has completely changed the way that I relate to technology.
Yeah. What does that look like? So what struck you about the iPhone that was like, ooh, I don't like that now that I'm not used to it?
I feel like it just pulls you in. I feel like everything about it, just even the way that the screen is designed, like it feels like an infinite screen. You know, there's no borders. It feels like, and I've been trying to do some research for the book, but I feel like for the first time, us humans, we're so wired for movement. We're so wired to see things and to experience things. And for the first time in human history, we are able to see other people's lives as if they're like a POV. And even like when we're just hanging around doing nothing, we're just teleported to this whole new world. And then we like wake up and we look around us and we're like, oh my gosh, I've been here for 2.5 hours doing nothing. Like that time just slipped right through my fingers. And I was like, this is not what I wanted.
Yeah.
It's not what I signed up for.
No. It's like the assumption of how we're supposed to live. And I think like the tech companies get that. And so a marketing campaign from Snapchat recently has been like, they want to help you connect with people in real life. So they will have snap maps. You can see all the people around you, and like with the intention or fake intention of like wanting you to get together with them and put the screen down. I just think that's like marketing mumbo jumbo. I think the platform is so addictive that they don't actually not want you on there. They want you on there watching as many ads as possible. What boundaries do you put on yourself with that smartphone? Because it does have access to literally everything and anything. So do you set any limits for yourself, or you just have like, when it's been too long? Are there certain things you avoid on there?
Yeah, there's a lot I could say.
Yeah.
I think it starts with the beginning of the day. I don't use my phone first thing in the morning. My dad told me this recently. He was like, yeah, I was listening to something that you said. That was really smart. You would not wake up and let 100 people into your bedroom. You just wouldn't do it. So why do we do it online? You know, why do we like,
it's crazy.
I know people who the first thing they do is like, look at their email. And like, that's just so stressful. So for me, I created a boundary where my phone doesn't sleep in my room. You know, I parent my phone. I wake it up when it's ready. And so I leave it in the kitchen. My roommates also actually leave their phones in the kitchen.
Oh, cool.
So we have created this boundary together at the house.
Yeah.
And I don't wake the phone up until I'm ready for it to be awake.
That's crazy. And you're talking about it like it's a baby.
Yeah.
So like having a dock for it where it stays in the kitchen. And this is huge for families, because especially once your kids have phones, being like, okay, you don't carry it around with you. It's a tool you use when you need it. So it stays on the dock all the time. You go use it and then you put it back on the dock and you move about your life. You don't take it into the bathroom. You don't take it into the bedroom. And setting those standards with your kids early, I think, is going to be a great lesson for them. But also, like, then the parent should probably do that as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to lead by example. And I think that's why I've really connected with college students a lot. Is we are actually, I lead a life group. And so for the book that I'm writing and the research I'm doing, there's a huge gap in research. And so I got another light phone, and we're going to be doing testing. So everybody will get the light phone for 3 weeks, doing journal exercises and then reflective piece afterward. So everybody's like, wow, like this is changing my life. Like this is the way that I'm relating to my smartphone now, coming back off of the dumb phone is revolutionary.
Yeah.
People are coming alive to the folks around them.
Right. It's so cool. It sounds like, Sean Killingsworth with the Reconnect movement. Yeah. He brings college students together on campus to have non-phone activities, non-phone time, and they feel so much better after. And he's talked about how they then go about their life a little bit differently. Like they think more about putting it down, even when they don't need to or aren't required to. Okay, I love that. I think what I'm building up to in my life is integrating a dumb phone in addition to a smartphone. I can't not have a smartphone entirely because I have to be on social media.
Oh, it's so unrealistic,
right?
It's so unrealistic.
But I can definitely spend certain times where I use a dumb phone when I leave the house and I don't need to be accessing Instagram, to check messages. That can wait. Or if I'm with my kids or taking, especially when I'm with my kids. So you've only experienced the light phone. There's also the Wise phone and like flip phones.
And the Bark phone, I've heard.
Bark phone is very much kid focused.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I did ask them, like, is this something that a parent could use? Or even the new Bark watch. I'm like, is that something that adults could use to replace their Apple iPhones so that it's a little more basic and just doesn't bug you so much? And they indicated that it really is a child device. Yeah. I love that you reminded people about not using your phone in your room at night or not having your phone in your room at night, because that is something you mentioned on our last interview. And I wrote down that I wanted to ask you if you're still doing that, because that is tough. And my main boundary right now is I'm reading a 5-book series that I bought on Kindle, and I have the app. So I guess I could dig up an old iPad and just do that. It's still a device, but it's not the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really about setting your intention, like I said before.
Yeah.
For me, my phone doesn't live in my room at all. So I actually just brought it in because I was like, I wanted to show it up on the podcast. But my phone doesn't live in my room. I have really strong boundaries following my story. I just realized, as someone in a relationship, a young man, a college student, I don't need to have, 24-hour access to a screen like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to live here. So and honestly, with my work, it's pretty demanding. So people need to reach me, and that's okay. But if it was urgent, they'd call me and I would hear it.
Yeah.
So I just log into my email on my computer instead.
Right.
My roommates have restrictions on my computer, and we have restrictions on each other. So we're all covered. We're like, we have decided to structure our lives and create lives that we're proud of and that we love.
Yeah, that is so cool. One huge thing about not checking your phone first thing in the morning, especially your email, is you're not going to respond to that probably right away, or at least not respond to it in a thoughtful way. It's going to stress you out for the entire morning until you're able to sit down and address the problem that you saw in your email and have been thinking about for an hour.
Yep.
And so that's the main thing for me, is I know there's stuff on there that I can tend to now if I wanted, but also I would like to wake up and have a coffee and get my kids ready for school and not have that in the back of my mind, right? Yeah. Are you still drinking coffee? It's 4:30.
I didn't wake up till 10 today.
Oh my God, why?
It was an awesome, I've really taken off work, so it's been great. I was like, I'm sleeping in today. I'm sleeping in. That's what's going to happen.
That's what you should do as a college student, man. Yeah. I haven't been able to do that in 10 years.
Yeah, that's fair though.
I know.
I'm looking forward to a future, and I'm like, I probably won't be able to do this much more. So I gotta juice this for what it's worth.
Yeah, you'll find times here and there, but it's like your body can't anymore. Like you're awake at 5:30 no matter what.
Yeah. Well, it's also been hard with exam season. We're working until 2 a.m, and just this sucks. This is really hard. So you got to find that time, get that rest.
I had to stay up till there was Washington Post had the exclusive on this interview that I got as well, and I had to wait 24 hours. So at 9:01 I could post 9:01 last night. I could post my interview, and that was hard to stay up till 9:01.
Yeah.
It's the time of life where I go to bed about 8:30 when my kids go to bed.
That's awesome. No, and you need that. You need that time to be able to rest and recuperate. I mean, we're all humans, right? We need that rest.
Yeah. The thing about having the phone in the room is also the nighttime activity with the phone, and kids are up all night because the devices are addictive. I was talking with a woman I work out with this morning, and she has been watching some of my interviews, and she said, I recently have my teenagers, actually now they give me their phones at 8 p.m. And she's like, it is wonderful. They're talking to each other. They're sleeping better. They're in a better mood. And I'm thinking why don't this should just be the law, or something. It should be illegal to have your kid have their phone in their room because it's so bad for them. So there's a lot. That is one of the number one tips I try to give parents, is don't let them have it in their room at night. And in your experience, that was some of the bad stuff that you went through with grooming and all of that was probably happening at nighttime.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also falling out of that, the negative relationship with pornography that I cultivated throughout my teen years.
Yeah.
And that's just not something that I want to continue. So stepping away from the phone, I haven't had my phone in my room since I've been in college. And these past 3 years have been revolutionary for me.
Yeah.
There's been research that is disproportionately affecting your brain in the morning, like the first hour you're awake and the last hour of your day before you go to sleep, that these moments are, they're disproportionately important to the cultivation of your mood, to what's really important to you, and to the things that you identify with. So I've really been super intentional to set aside those hours for the things that I have claimed are most important. So my roommates, my faith, cultivating peace, journaling, all these things.
Yeah. And I mean, your brain is still developing, but like young,
I'll be a while.
till you're 25 or 6, but like young kids are definitely, and teens are definitely, their brains are still developing. So giving them that time, especially if that's like prime time for those experiences, is really interesting. Pausing here to remind you, if you don't know already, that there is a safer device option for your kids, safer than an iPhone by far, and that is the Bark phone. If you don't want your kids signing up for social media or accessing inappropriate sites, an iPhone is not going to do it. The Bark phone starter plan comes with talk and text only, and then if and only if you're ready to start integrating some social media access, there are advanced plans available that offer social media, but not without your approval. Plus, it has advanced content monitoring built in, which will send you alerts of potential dangers. So when it comes to a basic phone that won't distract or addict your child from healthier activities, the Bark phone is where it's at. But if your child already has an iPhone or an Android and you don't want to switch it up, at least layer on the Bark Parental Controls app as a baseline. You can set rules around screen times. You can block certain websites and apps. You get alerts of harmful content coming their way and a ton more. And if you're interested in a watch for your child, please check out the new Bark Watch. So you've been researching for your book, which are you calling it The Moments Between Moments?
Yes.
That's beautiful. And you already said it on here quite naturally. So what are you learning? Like, what are some things that stand out? We'll definitely do another interview when that book is available and talk about it in detail. But what are some things that are standing out for you that are good lessons for parents to be thinking about?
I think especially with the research on how Americans spend their day, as we previously mentioned, that we only have 8%, liberally 8%. More conservative, it's like 6%. For what we say all matters most.
Anything not devices, 6% of the time that we're not on our device as well.
Yeah. 2.5 hours on television, 4.5 hours on cell phones, 8.1 hours at work. And that's not factoring in commutes or meals or brushing your teeth. Like this is 8% of everything else.
Yeah.
And I think that should be alarming for people. That should be a wake-up call that these devices have not, in fact, enhanced our lives, that they've actually taken away. And I love that I'm able to flip open my computer and I can get on an interview with you and talk to you here in the Shenandoah Valley. And this is awesome.
Yeah.
But there's also the pervasive infinite scroll and platforms designed to steal your attention. And especially with youth describing how they feel about it, it's alarming. It's really alarming.
Yeah. And I think like there's the conversation about using tech as a tool, not a toy. When you are letting your kids do something fun on the device, like I like to do tech together. So play a game with them. So you're watching and experiencing that together, even watching a movie together. But are there certain areas of tech that you would just not recommend we let our kids access? I'm going to throw social media out there. Like for me, the benefits, like I don't really know what they are. I know that there's certain communities that find people like them that they want to connect with. I think there's other areas of the internet they can do that. I think social media is pervasive and addictive. And for me, not something I need to introduce to my kids besides the fact that it's going to be available to them someday and they're going to have to decide what they want to do with that. But what is your opinion on kids' social media use in general?
Yeah. You asked this question last time, and I really thought about it after our interview.
Okay, good.
And what I said last time is we as adults, and especially for parents, ought to reconsider why they're on social media to begin with. I think framing that question and wondering what is the usability, what is the functionality and utility for their kids to be on social media. And I'll use an example. I'm the only 21-year-old in my house. We are a house of faith, and I do drink alcohol. My roommates, they're under 21. We have decided as a house that we don't really care. I want to help my boys to create healthy relationships with alcohol. This is not super common in college. And so a lot of them have girlfriends. And so we want to see them cultivate a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And so maybe guiding your child through social media would be helpful. But I think eventually if they have a cell phone, they're going to find some sort of way to be on something. When my parents were giving me a cell phone at 13, they were like, oh, don't go on social media. You're not allowed to. I made that anyway. I made a private one, and then it was only where my friends were on it, and I was posting some sort of crazy stuff. So I think guiding children through what a healthy relationship looks like, and I love what you're saying, doing tech together, guiding that through your example. And so it goes back to my roommates, like, we don't do drinking in our rooms. Like, that's really sad, drinking alone. So like, we experience community together. We don't do our phones in our bedrooms. We don't do the alcohol in the bedroom. And I think it's really comparable, because as beneficial as they are for cultivating community, it's also really dangerous to your own mental health.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And like evolved to be such young adults and have these like guidelines you're setting for each other and knowing the benefit of those. One thing I thought of is like my relationship with social media. I deleted it personally in 2020 and wasn't on there for 3 years. And I'm still not on it personally. I don't share anything personal, but it's simply for me a tool to get the messages from this podcast out there and help parents who are looking for advice around this stuff. And we talked about this chatbot story, which parents are probably familiar with. The latest, I'm not going to go into it, but the chatbot story. And yesterday morning, I shared a recap of it, and it's 6 minutes long, which is quite long for a social media video. And it's been viewed over 300,000 times in one day. And there's so many parents checking their kids' phones now for this app and finding and catching grooming behavior. So this is the thing, like, that is powerful. And that is a tool that I'm using to spread awareness. And I feel good about that use of it. And that's something I could even just probably talk to my kids about. Like, I learned this crazy story and I shared it. And there's like, I don't know if they know what 300,000 people is, but that's a lot of people.
Yeah. But you're using it as a tool to communicate.
Yeah.
And most people aren't, though.
I know.
We're all looking at our usage. And I would encourage anyone who's listening to look at their usage and to reevaluate. Are you happy with the way that it's looking? Yeah.
What I don't do is scroll. I don't scroll through For You or my feed. I don't follow a lot of people, but I don't ingest. No, it's not ingest.
Yeah, you create more than you consume.
Consume. Yeah. Did you say that to me before?
I think I did.
I think you did. Yeah. Create. And I was trying to think of it. So I create and really don't consume a lot. I review the comments because I think it's important to know what parents are saying, although sometimes that's extremely stressful because some parents...
Yeah, right. I can't look at comments anymore. I decided to stop doing that months ago. Yeah, I'm just like...
Yeah, I know. I fight it because there's a lot of important things I learned from them. And messages is good. Like, direct to messages is probably the best way because they're not just trying to get a reaction on a comment feed. But okay, so what else, Harrison? What else have you learned through your experiences being really mindful and intentional with technology that you think parents should be thinking about?
I think especially for parents is to not only set the intention for how you want to use your phone, but also for how you want to use your day. So if we have that 8% and we want to extend that to 12% or 15%, we really ought to create boundaries for ourselves. We would love to see boundaries created for your children. So limiting your work day, I think, is really important. For me in college, as I have found, I work 2 jobs with Wired Human, and I also work for the END-OCEAC Survivors Council, where I create legislation. So I decide, I'm not starting my workday until 9 a.m. because I want to exercise. I want to be able to pray in the morning and be able to talk to God and go for a walk and make a cup of coffee and just really get grounded. And we want to see that pervasive sense of peace, be a part of our family life. So I think starting early and just kind of creating those boundaries, I don't want to look at anything work related until 9 o'clock. And if that means putting your work related things on your computer and taking them off your phone, I don't have email on my phone. I don't have Instagram on my phone or Facebook. I don't have my LinkedIn on my phone. when I want to log into work, I open my computer and that's where I start. And my chair's not that comfortable. It's creaky and loud and old. And so like when I'm on my computer, I don't really want to be there. It's not a really comfortable place. Being really intentional in monotasking your life, you know, we're not as good at multitasking as we like to think. So creating spaces. Like a big myth. No, it's fake. You know, we're like, you know, you think about doing the dishes and the laundry and, you know, cooking dinner.
You do everything. I interviewed a doctor about this, Gloria Mark. It was a really interesting interview about the myth of multitasking. And you do everything worse. You make more errors and it takes longer when you try to multitask. It's a big myth. Yeah.
And we're not able to really be present when we multitask either. And that's where the story of the book came out, actually. Is I was listening to a podcast. It was like a spiritual podcast. And I was really enjoying my time listening to it. I was cooking dinner, doing the dishes. I don't really remember what I was doing, but I was in the kitchen. And I just felt this urge to like take out my headphones and just do the dishes. And I was like, okay. And so I like took them out. And I don't hear God's voice a lot. It's not something I don't really hear it. I usually like feel it. It's like more of a feeling. And then he said, for the moments between moments. And I was like, well, what in the world is that? And so I like ran to my room and like wrote it in my journal. And I just started journaling about it. And I was like, what could this mean? And so, you know, I like looked back at the journals and I was like, wait, this is like really beautiful. And, you know, I looked at more and I was like, is this a book? Like, what is this? And so I felt this huge gap. So I don't know. I think creating those boundaries is a really helpful tool. You know, my work is delegated to my computer. My family is delegated to my phone.
That is so interesting and really thinking outside of the box, because you think that you have to have LinkedIn on your phone and your email, but you truly don't. I mean, maybe I have my personal email on my phone, but then I don't have my work email on there. Like there's so many changes that you can make that you've never thought of before. It may sound insane, but that really aren't that big of a deal. Like once you make that adjustment, don't inhibit anything and then give you back that attention in that time. Yeah. It's really interesting. Where are you at in the process of the book?
Maybe like chapter 3. So the whole beginning of the book starts by asking people to rate what's the most important thing in their life. It's a really beautiful introduction. And I encourage people to do that. And then it follows through some pretty alarming statistics about the way that we're living our lives here in America. And really creates a call to action with some digital intentionalism boundaries.
I love this. It's right in line with what I think I'm going to be focusing on a lot next year is parents and adults taking a look at their relationship with technology in order to set great intentions for our children, because we worry so much about them online, but then we don't worry about ourselves at all. And we keep doing the same things and they're watching us do it. And they're like, why would I stop doing this? You're doing it. It looks, you know, if it's more important than me, it's just this culture that we got stuck in and we have to really pull ourselves out of it, I believe. And
it's so hard to, though.
I know.
Because this is what we've cultivated and this is what we've created. And then you look at the alarming statistics and you ask, how is it working out for us? And it's not great. I mean, suicide has doubled for teens since the year 2000.
I know. For such young teens, it's so sad. Anything else you want to share, Harrison, that we didn't talk about?
Yeah, I think my last boundary for technology is the one that's been most transformational for a few of my roommates, and especially for me. I call it my digital detox, or what I refer to as Sabbath. So every Friday night, this is a really special time. It's a time that we all look forward to as the house, where the sun's going down and so do the computers, and the phones go away. They go away for 24 hours.
24 hours.
24 hours every Friday night, you know, when everybody's done with their work and the sun's going down. Pour a glass of wine, open a beer, and turn on a movie, or, you know, read books together, or just talk about our week and reflect on the good, the bad, the ugly, and just being present with each other. On Saturday morning, we sleep in as late as we want as a act of resistance to the 24/7 work week of, you know, 15-second response times. And we're able to really be present with each other. We'll go on hikes and do the things that we love. You know, we'll eat probably just a little too much and and just lounge around. Whatever we're really feeling like we need, we take inventory.
Oh, and you said you all look forward to that, huh? I must.
Yeah, every single Friday night, it's so special. Especially my roommate Zach. He'll send me a text and be like, "We're ready.
No.
And so, when we all enter the room, we light the candle, and it's like this is it. And we just set the intention for the next week. Like, this is the pace of life that we all wanted. And there's generations on generations of humanity that never got to experience the life of choices that they could make because they were so bound to their physical needs. Like, we have such an opportunity here in the 21st century American culture to create the life that we want. I'm broke. I don't have a lot of money, but like I can still be happy. And I'm sure I'll get busy. My partner and I are starting our life together. She's going to be a teacher. I'll be a counselor. I'm sure eventually there'll be kids in the picture and life will get chaotic. And that's totally okay. But creating that early and looking forward to a life that I'm actually going to love.
Oh, I love that. Sabbath. I mean, I think that's so interesting is kind of like making it a ceremony almost of like, this is when we can all breathe because all those devices are going away. And I think that's something, I'll try it with like my kids I think that it will feel really good for them too, to know that I'm now disconnected. I'm there. I'm here for you. And if you make a ceremony about it, even if it's just like lighting a candle and saying, we're starting this now, then it kind of holds you to it more rather than just being like, okay, I'm going to try to leave my phone in the other room. But like, actually it's calling to me the whole time. And I know I have that option to go get it. Now, I don't think I can commit to it for 24 hours, but I think like even just
5.
the Friday night, like even
1.
just the Friday night until the next morning, or the Friday night, even just from when the kids get home from school till you go to bed, anything, because that is very abnormal for normal parents.
Well, it's so hard, I think even for a college student, my first like 3 months of doing this practice was really difficult. For me, the practice was not only for rest, but also connecting with God. And so I knew that it wasn't realistic for me. And honestly, I would argue that it wouldn't even be recommended to go run away in a monastery somewhere, but that we can take that presence with us throughout our daily life. And so just experiencing that presence on my couch with a book or a cup of coffee or staring out a window, or just being myself.
I know.
For parents, it's got to be so hard. Like, what are we even doing? All of our time is being stolen from us. And those things that we all said matter most to us, we're not living that reality.
Parents just lose themselves, man. Like, it is hard because you really are all about the kids, especially when they're babies. And then they start to grow up and you're like, what do I like doing again? Like, when did I feel excited last? Like, it's just a really, not like a depressive state, but it's like you're just surviving. And the devices really have a lot to do with that because you're not giving yourself any time in between the chaos to think about, just be in your thoughts, to think about nothing, to go for a walk and just not bring your phone.
For those moments between moments.
Like when you're in your car and I instantly put on a podcast, like just turn it off, like just leave it off.
That'll bode well for your listeners.
I'm okay with that. Listen, I just want people to find balance and
to feel human again.
Okay, Harrison, this has been so lovely as usual. I'm sure we'll have something else to talk about soon, but thank you so much for this. I'm eagerly awaiting your book. I know that you're only on chapter 3 and it's a long process, but
it'll be a while.
But next year, right?
Maybe we'll see. With all the data, it might take a while because I only have one dumb phone to give out to one person at a time. So,
so you're doing that yourself. That's really cool. Okay, and I have a note to reach out to a couple of the dumb phone companies and be like, I want to do a test. Like, let's do this because I think
I can send it to you. We can collect some data from you too.
I mean, you don't have to send it to me. I'll just give you. Well, you tell me what to do, and I'll give you my data.
Great.
Okay, Harrison, thank you so much. Where can people connect with you? Do you recommend LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn's great. Harrison Haynes. Or you can connect with me over email at harrison@wiredhuman.org.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Nikki.
You're welcome.